Welcome to the Voice Coach Podcast, here for all your speaking voice training and guidance. My name is Nic Redman, and I am offering you all sorts of nuggets of wisdom on how to keep your voice in good working order and a true representation of who you are. So if you're a podcaster, presenter, actor, speaker, or voiceover artist, or a general voice geek, you're in good hands. Shall we get started? Well, hi there. Nice to imagine you listening again. It's weird trying to find hello, nice to see you openings when you don't actually see somebody, but you know what? I've made it work, I think. Anyway, thanks for coming back, or welcome if this is your first time. This episode, I am going to recommend some more books. Last time, I recommended voicey books that are very specifically and explicitly voice training books. This time, I'm going to actually recommend some non-voice but still useful for your voice complementary books for a bit of additional reading just to build on other skills that will impact your voice and your habits and your abilities. Because sometimes reading around the topic is incredibly beneficial. Actually, scratch that. Not sometimes, all times. I certainly find reading books that are sometimes more psychology-based, even business-based, or just lifestyle-based are really useful. So here we go. 3 books that are non-voice specific, but are still really good for getting to know your voice and improving your speaking. Okay, number 1, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. This is like a fascinating and quite intense read all about how our bodies hold on to trauma, big and small, and how that affects us generally as humans going through the world. So from a voice training perspective, it can be really useful to understand why we're tense, why we react to things in a certain way, and why our mindset is how it is. And the truth is, a lot of why we are who we are is related to our life that we've already lived and how we feel about what's coming next and what we've experienced. It's not always massive, huge things, or sometimes it is, depending on your existence so far. But this book's a real eye-opener, and it can really help you reflect on how your body might be holding on to things, both physically, in terms of actual tension, which is hugely detrimental to the voice, but also mentally and emotionally, which again is really important when it comes to voice, when we're trying to find vocal freedom and the ability to communicate our emotions and our message clearly. It's a big read, quite a tough one. I found I had to read some of it twice. Maybe that's my crazy brain, but it was really worth it. Or hey, just get the audiobook and listen to it while you're doing the housework, but I hugely recommend it. So that's The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. Next one is Breathe In, Breathe Out by Stuart Sandeman. He's on the radio, don't you know? And this book just came out recently. I'm really enjoying reading books about breath work that aren't specifically designed for voice. Like there's a massive breath work resurgence at the moment. Everyone's all doing breath work for therapy and trauma and habits and day-to-day life, and this is a great one. It's really lovely, easy to read book on how we can harness the breath to help us feel, well, all kinds of better, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally. Stuart shares his journey to breath work, which is always really interesting to read. And then there are various exercises that you can work through. And I'm sorry, but I also like the way it's laid out. It looks really nice. It's really aesthetically pleasing to me. And I know I'm not supposed to, judge books on that, but there we are. It looks dead nice. But the exercises walk you through becoming aware of your own breath and then help you with seeing how you can use breath to help you manage pain, reduce stress and feel fitter. I really recommend it. It's a lovely, lovely book. And when it comes to your voice, of course, the more you know about your breath habits, the better. Because those day-to-day breath habits, whether it's holding, whether it's breathing really high, all that kind of stuff, and having an awareness of that is hugely important to how we manage and improve the breath for speaking. So that was Breathe In, Breathe Out by Stuart Sandeman. And then the third one is Atomic Habits by James Clear. I know everybody talks about this book, but it's really, really good. It's something that we talk about quite a bit in the Vocal Empowerment Programme when we have our guest session with Kate Cocker, just talking about how we can create better habits and how we can build new excellent habits and reflecting on the habits we already have. It's about getting your head in the game for regular practice, basically. It's well worth a look. And it's really complementary for voice work because in order for voice work to be effective, we need to do it regularly. It needs to be a habit, whether that's just your warm-up, your 5-minute warm-up before you record, or whether that's a slightly longer, more progressive piece that you do a couple of times a week. It needs to be habitual. If you're totally rubbish at making and sticking to new habits, then this is the book for you. Like I found until I read this book, I didn't realise the habits that I had and how I'd formed them. So by learning how you've already formed certain habits, you start to learn how you can form new good ones. Anyway, I really liked it. I'm a nightmare for starting and getting bored and drifting off. And this book really helps with that. So if you've got one of those brains that gets distracted really easily, do read this one. That's Atomic Habits by James Clear. So there you go. Stick those on your Crimbo list. And if you've read anything else that you think might be complementary to voice training, do let me know. I'm always up for a new read. Really still waiting for the day when I can have an entire room in my house that's just a library. So yeah, send them over. Oh, and make sure you're on my newsletter for more book recommendations as I discover them, because they're always coming up and I like to share them with folks and they'll go in my newsletter, The Fold, first. So I'll pop a link in the show notes for that. Alrighty, that's it for now. Happy reading or happy Googling and purchasing of new books. All the links for the ones that I've mentioned are in the show notes. I will be back very soon. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the Voice Coach podcast. For even more support with your speaking voice, head on over to our free community, the Voice and Accent Hub on Facebook. See you in there.